What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Sport Universe podcast. Me, Brian, and I'm joined with Nick.
What's going on, guys?
Um, so I think we have a lot to cover today. We have the playoffs in baseball, uh, week 5 of the of NFL stuff, and just other things, basketball and college football. So let's just get into it. Um, so I think I'll start with the Mets firing Mickey Callaway, and then we'll just get into the playoffs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Let me just fix the volume. Okay, we're good. So, when was it? Earlier this week, I don't remember this exact day. Actually, I think it was Thursday. The Mets fired Mickey Callaway. Yeah, it was Thursday because I did a reacts. So how I feel about it is I'm actually pretty proud of the Mets. I did not see them basically giving away money because, for those that don't know, if you sign a manager, or I think it's anyone, and you fire them, you have to pay them the rest of their salary, even if they're not doing the job, obviously. And I didn't expect the usual cheap Mets to actually do that, but I think they made a very smart move with firing Mickey Callaway. I think New York didn't really work out for him, and I don't think that he's a bad. Well, I can't really say if he's a bad manager or a good manager, but I think if he was in a smaller market, he'd definitely be better than what he was in New York. From that, I think they need to hire someone who has experience as a coach. Obviously, Mickey Callaway was a first-time manager, and that is why I think that they should sign Joe Girardi. Not, yeah, whatever. Joe Girardi. I think obviously he's been in New York, had a lot of success in New York with the Yankees, and he also has a proven track record, and that those two things I think are very important for the Mets, and I hope that they go and get him. And don't try and do some inexperienced person because I don't think that'll work.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with you there. I felt like Mickey Callaway was not a good manager at all.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like baseball, talent will bring you places, but in terms of the Mets, you need to build a culture. That's number uno, build a culture.
Numero.
And Mickey Callaway and what happened behind closed doors, we're not 100% sure, but we know it wasn't great.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the one to build that culture there, as it stands.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of hiring a new manager, I think Joe Girardi would be great. To this day, I really don't know why the Yankees fired him.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get to the playoffs every single season, I get it's the Yankees and all, but he didn't stray too far away from what the Yankees normally do.
Yeah.
So I really could never understand why they fired him. So I hope he gets another job, and if it's the Mets, I think the Mets would really benefit from having somebody like Joe Girardi as their manager.
Yeah, that's an important factor to keep in mind. He didn't go in bad terms. He was still doing. It was the ALCS, right?
Yeah, they made the playoffs and they fired him. Yeah. Go figure.
And they were one win away from the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I feel about that situation. I guess we'll just go into all the playoff series. You can talk about the Yankees first. We'll start there.
Sure. Yankees are up 2-0 on the Twins in the ALDS. Through the first two games, they're looking pretty decent. I think in terms of summary, Twins are a really good hitting team, and the Yankees will continue to beat them because again the Yankees are also a good hitting team, but it seems like the Yankees pitching is a little bit better. So that's really helping win them the games. At the same time, I feel like the Yankees pitching and the hitting for that part can be inconsistent at times, and I believe personally that as a Yankees fan, and just I feel like anybody could see at this point that the Yankees being up 2-0 in the series at this point, that the Yankees are going to win the series.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of going forward, the inconsistency I feel might come back to bite them against a team like the Astros, where you got to nearly play perfect to beat a team like the Astros. They are so good. And then going into the World Series, presumably going against a team like the Dodgers, the Yankees have a tall mountain to climb, and they're at the base. If they don't start playing at their best now, which I think they're close to it, and they definitely can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to survive the Astros or the Dodgers going forward.
For them, it's definitely the pitching, and I was reading stuff, and I mean, I guess I could have just came up with it by myself, but if if their pitching can't get through at least like 6 innings in the playoffs, it's really hard to rely on your bullpen every single game for you to win.
Definitely.
So that's.
I'd say pitching is a lot more of an issue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, their hitting, there's nothing wrong there. Okay. I guess we'll do the other AL series, which is the Astros and the Rays. The Astros are up 2-0, like the Yankees. I mean, I don't really see the Rays coming back against the Astros. The Astros are just good all around. I mean, Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole have been, like...
phenomenal.
Yeah. Garrett Cole had 15 strikeouts last night, yeah. So, and who's their next pitcher? Do you know?
I am unsure.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think all three of them are top 3 ERA-wise in the AL. So the Rays have a big uphill climb similar to the Twins, but I think both of them are there's no real hope for them. There's just too much really good players on both teams for them to come back from 2-0 deficits. But hey, if the Twins want to come back against the Yankees, I'm totally down for that. Do you have anything with that series?
No, I definitely agree. Again, I feel like the Astros, Dodgers, Yankees, they're kind of above and beyond all the other teams in the league right now. So I personally, it's probably going to be between those 3 teams to win the World Series. I think it's whatever team can be the most consistent, because I feel like they all have talent to be, historic teams on a night-to-night basis. But if they're not going to be consistent, then they're not going to win the series out. So I think it comes down to whatever team's going to be the most consistent throughout the playoffs.
Yeah. I guess we'll go with the Dodgers National Series. The series is tied 1-1 right now. The Dodgers beat the Nationals 6-0 Game 1. I think it was 4-2 Nationals Game 2. Obviously, the Dodgers are the Dodgers, like we just said. They're really good. But the Nationals have good things going for them, especially. They're pretty set up for playoff baseball with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. Having those 3 as your top 3, but the Dodgers also have 3 really good pitchers. In that case, I think the Dodgers are still going to win. They just have too much talent. But the Nationals have shown that they could definitely hold their own against them, considering it's 1-1. Let me see. I wrote down some notes. Obviously, a big question mark for the Nationals is their bullpen, which has been doing better since they got Daniel Hudson in the trade. I don't know what it was from, but he's been doing really good. But for the rest of the bullpen, it's not really pretty for them. There's no real bright spot. It's kind of just hoping for the best, which isn't the best way to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're spot on with that again.
But also for the Dodgers, Kenley Jansen has also really struggled this year, so that the bullpens in both situations aren't the greatest. So we'll see where that goes from there. One more series. So the Braves and the Cardinals also tied 1-1. There's a big thing with the Braves with Ronald Acuna not running out. What was it? Not running out. He thought it was a home run. It turned into a single because he didn't run it out, and that created a whole big dilemma in Game 1 because if some things would have happened, then they might have been able to tie the game and win the game. But I wrote a whole story about that on TheSportUniverse.com, and I want people to go read that, so I'm not going to talk about that. There's not really much else there. The Cardinals and the Braves are 2 really good teams, and I hope the Cardinals win because I don't like the Braves, but there's not much more. I don't know if you have anything.
Not really. Again, I'll just reiterate the point that that series, in my opinion, kind of irrelevant down the stretch. I think the Dodgers are going to win it out, but
yeah,
I personally feel like the AL is going to win it between the Yankees and the Astros.
Yeah, 2 very good teams.
But I would definitely say that the Dodgers are the favorites in the NL.
Sure. The one, like, I mean, the Dodgers, they have had really good seasons, but their playoffs aren't the greatest all the time, so it's still something interesting. Let's see. I think that's it. Well, that definitely is it, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. Do you want to go into NBA now?
Sure.
You can talk about the player heights stuff.
All right. So in terms of NBA news, segueing into that section, large in the news is player heights. The NBA installed a new mandate that all the NBA teams have to get player listings for their height and weights, and they have to be accurate. They can't just. So I think in the past, it's been a lot of hearsay in terms of heights, and I think a lot of the heights are based off of what colleges give them in college, like what the colleges give their heights, and that that's given to the NBA, and the NBA will draft based off of those heights as a factor in their drafting, which I think was a major problem within itself. The NBA is drafting off of fake heights. It's not really a good thing. So I think this change is really good for the NBA. It'll shed a little bit of light in in the true scope of who players are and how tall they are, how versatile they are. But also at the same time, it doesn't change a damn thing because a player who is talented at whatever height is going to be good at whatever height. Yeah. I saw a couple of references. It was like Charles Barkley was one of the best power forwards of all time, but was listed at 6'6", but he was really 6'4".
Yeah.
In terms, and I guess, going a little bit further, in terms of what heights that I think will be interesting to see change. Apparently, there's rumors that Marvin Bagley is not actually 6'11", he's 6'8", so that's going to be a 3-inch difference, which is interesting. Kevin Durant, to no one's surprise, is apparently 6'10" instead of 6'9". Kyrie Irving went from 6'3" to 6'2", and these are all mainly rumored. None of the listings are official yet. There's this Instagram, I think they're called Playmaker, and they've been releasing these heights, but none of them are official yet, so keep that in mind. I think the biggest height change, what I thought was really interesting, is apparently Draymond Green is only 6'5" and not 6'7".
Wow.
And how good of a defender he's been, and how versatile he's been. So it's interesting that he's only 6'5" and be able to do what he's done.
That's definitely true. I see. I went on Playmaker. It says Zion Williamson is an inch lower,
which I feel like is irrelevant. Who cares?
I mean, a lot of this stuff is kind of like, if it's an inch, I'm sorry, that's not going to change that much.
If it's an inch.
Yeah. But 2-3 inches is kind of like how they messed that up in the beginning. Or what
I think Kemba Walker is down 2 inches. He's from 6'1" to 5'11". Wow. And apparently Isaiah Thomas isn't even 5'9". He's apparently 5'8", 5'7", which is pretty interesting.
That's funny.
Quite short.
Yeah. Good for him for being in the NBA that short. I guess we can go into LaMelo Ball. When is...
All right.
So the LaMelo Ball might be first overall pick. I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, yeah, he's playing good. He's overseas, right? In Australia or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's in Australia, yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's playing good. I feel like there's got to be someone else better than him in college basketball. I don't really follow college basketball, so I couldn't really say. But LaMelo, he was... I feel when they were always talking about the balls, I feel like he was one of them that might not even make it to the NBA, and now he's the projected number 1 overall pick. Not the projected, but could be. But if that's actually true, then good for the Ball family for taking him out of school, I guess, because he wanted to play basketball, and now he's gotten much better.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely improved. I watched a lot of his high school tape. As over the years. Average run-of-the-mill basketball player, could possibly play for a Division I team and then develop. Never really saw him as NBA caliber. After seeing that his improvement over the season, there's this one highlight that's just came up in media recently. He wound up crossing 2 defenders and then kicking it out for an assist, and the player missed a dunk. But it was a nice play by LaMelo Ball. I went and looked at some of his highlights and some of his tape over in Australia. He's improved a lot. I definitely see him as an NBA caliber player now.
For sure, yeah.
I don't see him as a first overall pick or even a first rounder. I definitely see him as an undrafted free agent that would sign to like a D League team that would definitely, or like just make a second round pick. I really don't see him as even a first rounder. He's, for the most part, I don't think he's that tall. I think he's 6 foot ish. His
hair definitely adds.
Yeah, his hair adds some height. Either way, I know he's definitely not oversized.
6'6".
He's not an oversized guard. How tall is he?
6'6".
He's 6'6". Wow.
Unless
Okay.
it's one of those.
Yeah, it could be inaccurate, but I would. He's taller than I thought. I thought he was only 6 foot. Wow. He's 6'6", so maybe he could be an interesting pick. That definitely changes my perspective on a little bit. I definitely could see. Again, I still don't think he has the same talent as some of the players that are throughout the rest of the world, especially in U.S. colleges. But I definitely could see him moving him into like a second rounder. Then, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I guess I'm not that familiar with how good or bad LaMelo Ball is, but I just feel like he's not that great. But
yeah, he's not overly. He's not anything we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't have his long hair anymore.
Yeah, so he cut it.
I take it back. I'm not a fan of the stupid long hair that people have, so maybe maybe I completely changed my mind on him. You know what? He is going to be the first overall pick. So preseason
I guess moving
started.
on. Yeah.
What'd you say?
I was moving on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the preseason started. I didn't watch any of these games, so if you want to talk about it.
Sure. There's been a lot of preseason games so far.
Yeah.
Two highlights that I've seen in the media that also are kind of interesting to me. I'll start with Harden. He unveiled his new move that he's been talking about in the offseason. You know, as you guys know, I'm a Rockets fan. It's not really a step back anymore. It's like a sidestep three. It's kind of interesting. It's like a sidestep one-legged three. Almost like if you were going to take a floater.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but floater to the side. Kind of interesting. He's shot in a few, and I don't think they've gone in, so I don't know how effective it's going to be. But it looks kind of interesting. I think it's more of a counter to – so when he started doing all the step backs last year, people started to play him on the side in order so they'd be able to cover his step back better.
Yeah.
And they'd let him drive in, and then they'd have a help defender pick up the drive, and then if there's a kick, that person that was on his hip would cover up the kick, if you guys can follow that. So I think it's going to be a nice counter to that if it becomes effective, because if they're playing on his hip, he sidesteps to the side. They're not going to be able to guard it. So look out for that in the upcoming season. In other news, LeBron and Anthony Davis for the Lakers, they wound up taking on the Warriors in, I think, their first major preseason game last night. I think it was last night, yeah. Yeah. Because they wound up winning by a good margin. The Warriors definitely have a lot of work to do. They have all new core. So it's definitely seen a lot changing. So yeah, I guess
it's a new world for them, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it gives a little bit of validation because people have been dropping the Warriors to preseason rankings to 5th, 6th seed in the West. Mm-hmm. I always thought they'd still fall within the top 5 at least. But that, the fact that they won by 30 does give a little validation to that drop off. But we'll have to see as the season goes on, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. They lost by 22.
Yeah.
All right. I think the Knicks play tomorrow night. But that's all I really have about the preseason. I guess we'll get into the NFL. Well, I'll talk about the Jets first, and then we'll go into the Giants. So, Jets lost again. This was the first game I didn't watch any of it. But, I mean, I can basically get the gist from it. Luke Falk is not a pro starting quarterback. He might be able to game manage, but with the Jets you need a good quarterback, and it hasn't worked out so far. And hopefully Sam Darnold is back next week. I feel like he probably will be. He was pretty close this week, and should be back next week. They are 0-4. It's really hard to see them getting anywhere.
0-5 now.
They're 0-5. They had a bye.
It's 5th week.
They had a bye last week.
Oh, did they? Okay, my bad.
Yeah. So, like, the way I think about it, they could only really lose, like, 2, maybe 3 more games to make it to the playoffs, and I don't see that. I don't see the Jets going on a big run like that. Sam, it's so annoying because I kind of had, like, some type of hope for the Jets this season with Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell, but, those hopes have been ruined. So that's great.
Mm.
Tied with the Mets missing the playoffs. It's just been great. Yeah, go.
I guess I'll talk a little bit about the Jets first before I move on to my Giants. The Jets overall have definitely been a disappointment, but I'd say an embarrassment would be a better term. It's been pretty bad for the Jets. I don't know if you guys remember in the podcast in the summer, but I was pretty skeptical of the Jets. I figured they're either going to be a lower-ranked playoff team or they're going to implode on themselves, and the latter happened. It comes down to the fact that, I feel like basketball is one of the few sports where one player or a couple players can really make a difference. Talent carries a lot more on a basketball court because there's only 5 players on the court.
That's true.
When it comes to football, you got 11 on 11. Players, signing players like C.J. Mosley, Le'Veon Bell, they're talented, yes, but at the end of the day, they're not going to change a football team. There's very rare and beyond, you're not going to find players, especially on the free agent market. If they're good enough to change an entire team as a single player, you're not going to see them on the free agent market. I can guarantee you that. And I think the Jets need a culture change. They need to, in my opinion, they need to cut the fat, rebuild fresh. I think they were doing a decent job. The problem is that you can create good teams into championship teams with free agents and filling in gaps, but you're not going to create a playoff team with a team that's one of the worst in the league. You can't just sign free agents and expect a 180 change. You got to build a culture. You got to build draft picks. You got to develop. You have to build a system. And the Jets are just trying to skip that process, and I think it's going to wind up hurting them in the long run, and it's going to make the rebuild even longer. So I think I don't know where they would go from here. May dare I say that they might want to cut C.J. Mosley and cut Le'Veon Bell. I feel like the team, especially Le'Veon Bell, the team doesn't need the drama of Le'Veon Bell. I think he's talented, and I think he'll do great on a team that's ready for him. But I don't feel like the Jets are ready to use him. I mean, I watched Le'Veon Bell in the Jets game. Even today, I watched him. Most of his plays are check downs where he has 3 defenders in his face instantly. There's nothing he can do. As talented as he is, if they don't have a plan, they don't have the talent to support him, then at the end of the day, he's just going to be another average running back.
You don't think part of that is because their quarterback is Luke Falk?
The Jets weren't that good with Sam Darnold. That's the problem.
But
I feel like Sam Darnold's obviously
right now is Le'Veon Bell. Like, they can't throw to anyone.
I feel like they can't. Again, players like Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins have looked like the best quarterbacks in forever, in years past.
But
they're not that great at quarterbacks. I know it's Luke Falk, but the system can go a long way. And obviously, with Adam, I think Adam Gase, the head coach, would definitely number one thing I would attack is Adam Gase. He has to be a temporary coach. He cannot stay there for a long run. He's not a person. He's not a coach that you can build a team on.
Mm-hmm. I kind of agree with that. I feel like definitely.
I'm just saying there's definitely a reason that the Patriots have been good for so long, and sure. It's not individual players. I don't even think it's Tom Brady. I think it's Bill Belichick at the end of the day, and the system he's created and the culture he's created that turns these run-of-the-mill players into really solid role players for their team.
Yes, that's true. I feel like I see what you're saying, but you gotta give it a year when Sam Darnold's actually healthy. I feel like giving up now is kind of doesn't really make sense how they're trying to play it. I get like maybe they are trying to skip steps, but it's also hard for me to gauge how good the team is when their starting quarterback is their third string quarterback.
Well, I feel like you saw last year didn't turn out too well, but
it was.
I'm giving you that. Like the Jets would be better off. I don't think they're going to be a winless team if they had Sam Darnold. But at the rate they're going and how they're playing, Luke Falk is not the sole reason they're losing. I think they'd still be quite a horrible team. They'd still be, 1-3 at this point rather than 0-4.
Okay, I guess that's true. All right.
Yeah.
You can go on to the Giants.
All right. Moving on to the Giants, play the Vikings this week. Back to disappointment. Defense constantly missing tackles, cannot cover. Straight Swiss cheese defense, could not cover anything. Quite embarrassing as a Giants fan. Wayne Gallman went out with a concussion. But on the good news, Saquon Barkley is expected to be returned next week against the Patriots, even though he was supposed to be out for 8 weeks. The man is he's a machine, not a human. Daniel Jones looked good. He looked okay. I think he needs to work on stepping up in the pocket. That's one of his bigger issues. I saw a lot of the O-line play with today was horrible. The Vikings defense had their way with us. But at the same time, Daniel Jones definitely could have stepped up in the pocket a few times to look for open receivers or even run it. So it wasn't a great game for the Giants. Giants are 2-3 now versus the Patriots next week. Don't expect us to win that. I'm assuming we'll probably go to 2-4. I think we can. I don't think we're going to be a playoff team, but I think we can definitely win some football games. And again, I think Pat Shermer's a good coach, and I think he's a decent guy to build around. So I think this year is going to be about building culture. I feel like the Giants are on the verge of getting good. They have some pieces. It looks like they're building a system. Evan Ingram has played out of his mind this year. One of the best tight ends in the league. I think a lot of people talk about that. So I think the Giants are definitely heading in the right direction. Especially with Saquon Barkley out, I don't think it's the right time to really turn that corner and try to make the playoffs. I'm just going to have to see, test some things out, hopefully get some good draft picks going into next year, and see what we can do from there.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously, Daniel Jones had 2 really good games. I feel like they're kind of similar to how the Jets were last year, and that there is some direction to where they're going. There's still a lot that they have to figure out, but definitely on the right track. Especially with how Daniel Jones has played, it just proves that they're in the right direction. I didn't watch any of these games, so you can just go right to it.
I pretty much sit here and watch football all day. So the Cowboys, they lost to Packers. They were down really bad in the first half. It was pretty embarrassing if I was a Cowboys fan. I mean, that is some of the worst football I've seen played by a team this year. Everyone on the Cowboys in the first half especially just looked in a daze. Nobody seemed like they were on the right page, the same page. In the second half, they kind of came back, but wasn't enough. The Cowboys fall, I think, to 3-2 now. And they're kind of losing their lead in the division. I think we'll see by next week. I think the Eagles are going to uptake the division. On the side of the Packers, the defense looks great. The Packers have done nothing but build over. Again, I think I've said this in the summer as well. The Packers, through the draft and through free agency, have done nothing but build up their defense throughout the past couple of years. And their defense this year is really coming to fruition. Their defense looks really good, even better than their offense. Aaron Rodgers and the offense still looks pretty good. Packers, I have to say, are probably an underdog team to win the Super Bowl this year. I'd keep an eye on them. There's a player, Aaron Jones, went off. I think he had almost 200 yards, and he had, I think, 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
5 touchdowns, possibly. So he had a great game. So that's the Packers game. Any comments on that, Brian?
Not really. I've never heard of Aaron Jones before, so that's interesting.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think he took over the running back spot last year. Oh. He's been pretty solid. He has games where he's not so good. He has games where he's pretty decent, and he has games like this where he just explodes. So I think consistency is why you really haven't heard of him, but he's definitely a good running back. He's the right man for the job. I guess moving on, the Ravens went toe-to-toe with the Steelers today. Well, the Ravens are definitely the favorite into the game, so I guess the Steelers went toe-to-toe with the Ravens. I think the Ravens wound up being down 20-23 in the last couple seconds of the game. Ravens drove down the field with the help of Lamar Jackson. They kicked the field goal. They wound up going to overtime, which is good because I had Justin Tucker on my fantasy team, so I was pretty happy about that. So the Steelers get it odd. When they go in overtime, the Steelers opted to give the Ravens the ball first. Ravens did nothing, punted it to the Steelers. Steelers did nothing, punted it back to the Ravens. Ravens took the ball up the field and wound up kicking a field goal for the win. So another points for Justin Tucker. It was a pretty solid game for me in terms of fantasy. So that was the game pretty much. Ravens win in overtime, 26-23. In terms of bigger news from that game, I would say that I think Earl Thomas wound up laying out Mason Rudolph, and he gave him a extreme concussion.
Oof.
Looks very bad. He should be out for at least a month.
Was it like one of those head-to-head hits, or it just was a really...
Yeah, I mean, when I didn't really, I don't remember exactly what the hit was like, but it was pretty tough when Mason Rudolph, he got up after I think they carted him off, and if you looked at his eyes, they were cross-eyed.
Oh.
He was out cold for a couple minutes. Pretty bad news for the Patriots because they already had lost Ben Roethlisberger, so they're on their third string quarterback right now. I think his name is Hodges or Hodge. I think it's Hodges. Yeah. So the Steelers,
Devlin Hodges.
Yeah, so his their seasons look pretty disappointing at this point. I also have faith in the Ravens too. I think they're another one of those teams that I think the Ravens are definitely going to make the playoffs, and they could even, if they get really hot towards the end of the year, they could make a run at the Super Bowl. Any comments on that?
No.
All right. Moving on. Texans played the Falcons today. Texans put up 53 points. Deshaun Watson was firing on all cylinders. I think the Falcons put up 23, so the
32.
Texans 32, yeah. So the Falcons defense was subpar, but the Texans offense was absolutely ridiculous. Will Fuller exploded. I believe he had 217 yards, 10 plus receptions, and 3 touchdowns. So huge day for him. I also want to make a side comment is like, where is DeAndre Hopkins? This man has been irrelevant this year. I think I drafted him first round in fantasy. Has been absolutely relevant. I don't think he's gotten more than like 5 points in fantasy this year.
That sucks. Jeez.
He's been, a no-show, so it's been a little disappointing for him. So yeah, I think that was the Texans game. Any comments on that?
One thing. I'm just looking at
the
stats. You said Deshaun Watson had a really good game. I mean, he had 426 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's 28 for 33. That's really good. Yeah, that's it.
In one game, I didn't put on the outline because I'm sure Brian's reading the outline.
Yes.
I think the Broncos wound up beating the Chargers today. The Broncos played well for the first time I think I've seen this year. They got their first win, I believe.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, I stopped watching the game after a while. Joe Flacco looked pretty good. Philip Lindsay looked pretty good. They've been kind of lackluster so far this year. So good sight to see for the Broncos fans. Chargers, I would definitely say, are a pretty disappointing team this year. They were one of those Super Bowl contenders. I wouldn't say favorites, but contenders going into this year, and definitely did a disappointment. Yeah. I don't say it's a result of the Melvin Gordon drama that started off the year, the fact that he tried to sit out, but it definitely could have factored into it. Football is such a short period of time, and if you're not in the right mindset as a team, then it could throw off your entire season. So, not great news for Chargers fans. They're going to have to see how this pans out, but not looking so great. Yeah. I think the Chiefs and the Colts are playing as we speak. I have Pat Mahomes, so hopefully the Chiefs offense does well. I think they're kicking. I'm looking at the TV right now. They're actually kicking a field goal. So we'll see how that turns out. Maybe a little POV on our Instagram.
Oh,
might come out of that.
Oh boy,
we'll have to see. So I think that's all for NFL football for this week. Antonio Brown, just want to throw this in there. Antonio Brown still jobless. Probably looks like it's going to stay that way for the rest of the year. There's too much drama surrounding him, and no team wants him this deep into the season.
I don't know if he wants to be on any team.
That's true. I think if a team's trying to make it to the playoffs, they might be interested in him. If they're just outside of the playoffs, they may want to sign him.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Antonio Brown wanted to join a team that's about to make the playoffs.
But for right now, still jobless. Yeah.
College football time?
So I guess that covers the NFL. College football's been relatively quiet. I haven't seen much in the news about it. or in my social media at all. So I actually had to go look up the games because I hadn't had a chance to watch them this weekend. Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, LSU still remain undefeated, still winning pretty decent margins. The game of the weekend was Auburn versus Florida. Auburn ranked 12, Florida ranked 7. Florida wound up winning it at the end of the game. I believe it was in dramatic fashion, so it was, Florida fans were pretty excited. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I had seen recently on social media how Auburn was developing to be into this team that was, bound for the playoffs, could win a natty, who knows, type of team, and they lost to Florida. So, kind of knocks their chances from making the playoffs at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Teams like Auburn, Florida, if you're not Alabama or Clemson, if you don't go undefeated, then you're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which I disagree with. This is how the system goes. Might be a good idea for a controversial topic.
Interesting. I had another controversial topic for this week.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll do that one.
Yeah.
Well, remember that one, guys, for the next week. Next week coming up. Don't be surprised if you see that. And so that's all for college football. I just wanted, before we go into our controversial topic, I just wanted to. I guess I'm going to do a little bit of a Villanova section because that's where I go. Villanova University, go Cats. So I'd like to cover Villanova sports. It's kind of fun for me. Villanova's football team 6-0 now. We verse James Madison University next week, which they're ranked 2 in the nation. We were ranked 5 in the nation coming out of this week. We won at 35-28 against William and Mary. Looks pretty good. Our running back, his name is Justin Covington. It looks like he's bound for the NFL at this point. He's the best rusher in FBS football, or SCS rather. Pretty interesting. So we go against James Madison next week. Should be interesting. If we stay undefeated, it might bump us up to a number 2 spot. North Dakota State as the number 1 spot. They do every year. If you guys don't know North Dakota State, they produced Carson Wentz. So even though they're an FCS team, they have high caliber players and they're always good every year. And then lastly, last night was Villanova's Hoops Mania, which is a kickoff for the start of the basketball season here. They do like a 3-point contest, a dunk contest. It's all in good fun. Interesting enough, we had Phil Booth return last night. He played for Villanova last year, and he's currently on the Wizards. We also had appearances on our big screen from Kyle Lowry, which is the Raptors point guard. And we also had a screen visit from Eric Pascal, who's on the Warriors, and was actually planning on attending Hoops Mania, but because the Warriors played the Lakers last night, he couldn't go. He was playing in that game.
So sad.
So, yeah. Fun stuff at Villanova. Also, speaking about Villanova basketball, college basketball is right around the corner, so, I'm definitely going to add that to my topics, especially because Villanova is a contender for the Natty almost every year. I think we have a lot of talent. Villanova is not, ranked as one of the number 1 teams going into the season, but I think we're in a general consensus like top 10 team. I think Villanova has a lot of young talent, and if you could harness that talent, we can definitely win a national championship with this team that we have here. I know a lot of the players, a few of them on a personal level, but yeah, I think a ton of talent, and if you can grasp that talent, then you could definitely be a natty winning team. And with a coach like Jay Wright, that's it's always possible. So
that's exciting to go to a school like that.
Yeah, NYU doesn't really have any sports.
No.
You guys have sport? You guys have sports teams, or they're just not good?
We do. They're just not good.
Disappointing.
I think. No, I'm not even going to guess. I was going to say women's basketball might be good, but I don't know. I guess that's it for college stuff. For the controversial topic, I did point of view on this, but I wanted to talk about it more. What was his name? Brian Hensley, who's a Cardinals relief pitcher. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. He's a member of the Cherokee Nation, and for those who don't know, a big thing for the Braves is this thing called the Tomahawk chop, which is, I think, I don't even know what it's for. I think the Chiefs do it too. It's just like a celebration that they do, and It's always been known that it's kind of some type of symbol related to Native Americans and Cherokee Nation and stuff like that. And Ryan Hensley, who's the relief pitcher for the Cardinals, said after Game 1 that it's disrespectful to the Native Americans, and it kind of makes them seem like, gives them like a caveman type of symbol, and there's much more to Native Americans than that. And I've always been I did a project in, I think it was 10th grade, no, 11th grade, about all these sports teams and their symbols for, from the Redskins to oh my god, to the Braves Chop On thing, and to the Indians Chief Wahoo, I think it was, on their cap. And I've always been saying how they need to change these things, and there's no reason for professional sports teams to continue to use these things that could be seen as some type of detriment to a certain type of people. And if the rest of the world's changing, they should have to too, especially them being such major corporations in the United States.
So what was it? I kind of got lost in your explanation there. So what is your your summary view?
Yeah. Basically that I agree with Ryan Hensley, and if someone from the Native Americans, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but is saying that's disrespectful, there definitely is a part that has to be changed, and there's no reason for them to continue to do the chop thing or whatever it's called. And if it's because a big thing, I remember when I did this, that it was a big thing, like it was tradition for these teams to do it, and I feel like that's a stupid reason to do it if it's something like that.
Yeah, I guess I see your point there. I'm kind of in agreement, kind of in disagreement. I agree to you. Like, if it's blatantly offensive, then I definitely think there's no reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've seen in a lot of interviews that I've watched, like mostly on YouTube and different news websites, a lot of the Native Americans don't find offense to them because, again, they're not really like the Washington Redskins or the Cleveland Indians, Tomahawk Chop. A lot of these aren't directly trying to be derogatory of Native Americans. They were more like in terms of like honoring them almost, giving homage to that they're part of American culture. So yeah, with the interviews being held and that the fact that they're not really, directly being offensive, I don't think they're that bad. So I definitely, I don't know. I don't see a point in removing them. They've been, if they've been around for a while, then I'm kind of in favor of keeping them. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely some stuff in sports that's like directly offensive, but I don't feel like, those type of things where they border on it and you can have different opinions are like the best things to just throw out.
So,
but I definitely see your point.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying too. The only, like, the one thing that bothers me is, like, teams' names and stuff and, like, their mascots are all supposed to be, like, symbols of animals and, like, stuff like that. But, like, Native Americans are human beings type stuff, and they're making them, like, kind of in terms of, like, like, that's, like, kind of far-fetched, but, like, Native Americans are human beings, and there's not, like, and I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, you're kind of making them into a character rather than a real thing.
Yeah. And I guess, I do remember in my research that a lot of people don't find it offensive, which is definitely something to keep in mind. But I don't know. It's definitely an iffy topic, which is why it's a controversial topic. So I think that's it. You have any last words, Nicholas?
Not really. I guess we'll just sign out usually. How I usually do. The Sports Universe podcast is work in progress. We try to make it better every each week. Try to always try to include as much news as possible, whatever is relevant. Last week our schedules didn't overlap, so Brian had to do something quick. Try not to have that happen again. I actually have a week off coming up, so that should be exciting. I'll be back in my hometown in New York.
You got a week off for what?
Yeah, we get a week off for, I think, Columbus Day? I'm unsure what it is. They call it fall break or October break here, so
That's
kind of
nice.
excited to go home and see the family. And I think about going to our high me and Brian went to the same high school. I'm thinking about going to our high school homecoming just for fun. Go see the football team. I'm a legend there. You know the vibes. Not really. No, I'm quite run of the mill player. So yeah. I don't know if Brian's covered this already, but I'll just give my little spiel on it. We kind of reactivated the Instagram. We're trying some stuff out, doing like little minute videos on some of the news that comes out.
Yeah.
More of a convenience thing. People scrolling through Instagram might find it entertaining. Something a little different from just posting the news.
Yeah.
I recently did one on the Yankees game 1. I wasn't able to watch the game 2, so I didn't do one on that. Otherwise, I would have. So yeah, go check us out on Instagram at the.sport. Is it how many? I don't know how many dots there are.
TheSportUniverse.
Yeah, the.sport.universe. I think we should definitely talk about getting rid of some of the dots, make it easier.
That's true.
But so yeah, go check us out there. YouTube is booming. Sport Universe on YouTube. Go check us out.
Yeah.
Also, I guess for me, you can follow my Instagram at nick.horvath on Instagram. You can contact me at nicholaszhorvath10@yahoo.com in terms of email. And my Twitter, I've recently become a little more active on in terms of I'm trying to become a little more active on it in terms of sports. And if you guys are interested in politics, I kind of do a little bit of politics on there too. I believe my handle on Twitter is nickhorvath61. My football number. So if you guys are interested in any of that, any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments below. Contact us. Get active with us. We're trying to expand. We're trying to have a little excitement. Keep supporting us, guys. We hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, so that was pretty exciting. Slowly but surely, we're building a fan base here, so we appreciate it, guys. Yeah. So I guess I'll hand it over to Brian now.
Yeah. I guess I'll comment on the Instagram stuff. For a while, for some people, I guess they know that we were inactive, and basically our whole thing was trying to figure out how to be different than other places. I mean, there's so many sports accounts on Instagram, and to a certain point, I started getting bored of doing the same thing. So, just trying to change it up, do some, we call them point of views and blogs and stuff like that. So that's been actually kind of fun to do, which is nice. Our YouTube, we are at 104 subscribers, so that's great. Keep subscribing, keep liking, do whatever you want to do. Thanks for, I'm trying to think of my usual thing. If you have any interest in writing for us, editing videos for us, anything that you think you can help us with, contact TheSportUniverse2019@gmail.com. And I guess that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye.